My name is Darren Lee, and I'm the fire chief with the District of Lake Country, and I've been with the department for just over 3 years now. In the fire service, mutual aid allows departments to share resources cross-border, and so it becomes a mutual benefit to both partners, or if there's multiple partners in the agreement, it lets you get extra resources in a time of need. We just entered into a mutual aid agreement with the District of Lake Country and the City of Vernon, and that's our newest mutual aid agreement here. I realized in 2023 when we had the Clark Creek wildfire, which was part of the greater grouse complex that had impacted the whole region. Vernon was one of the first departments in to help us. And I started to think like that's a pretty natural partner. Even though we're on the north end of the regional district, we didn't have mutual aid that extended across that border. And then last year, in the summer of 2024, we had a lightning storm that went through the Cars Landing Predator Ridge area, and we ended up working on about, I want to say about 7 small wildfires that were started by that, and it just seemed like a natural partnership. For us, obviously we're coming into like the peak of our fire season. There's some administrative things we have to do on the back end to put it together, but I'm really happy that it's in place for sort of the peak of our fire season. And that's sort of the short term, and then it's basically it's a 5-year partnership, and then was subject to renew in the future. So it's nice to get it done, that's for sure. I think whenever you negotiate between 2 municipalities or a city and a municipality, that's all done in confidence. But yeah, it was myself and some partners from internally, corporate services and legal, and the chief administrative officer's office. But then we obviously my key contact with the city of Vernon was Fire Chief David Lind. He's super easy to get along with. He's super easy to work with. He has a great team of people there. And even the day that we sort of announced it, we did a little bit of a photo op at their fire hall at Predator Ridge and got to meet some of his on-duty staff. And everybody seems like they're very, very easy to chat with. And then, going back to 24 and 23, the fire service isn't really that big, so a lot of us have friends in different places and stuff like that. So we already had like pre-existing contacts, but it's just nice to be able to put something formal in place for how we can support each other. Day-to-day might be cross-border training between our fire halls that sort of match up on our northern border, their southern border, and that helps build relationships so that if we did need the mutual aid agreement for a bigger emergency, at least people are familiar with working with each other. Type of emergencies where we'd trigger mutual aid would be a larger fire-related event. So that could be an interface fire or a structure fire type scenario. We do cross over with the City of Vernon quite a bit on Highway 97 North for rescue, but that's done under regional and provincial programs that already cover that. When the person in charge of an incident, the incident commander, it could be a company officer, it could be a chief, if they decide that the incident's going to outstrip their local resources, they have the ability to reach out to their mutual aid partners and request assistance. And then when that call, if we were going to assist, that call would come in and would go to our duty officer, and they would decide based on what's happening that day what we can send to support each other. And generally that goes fairly smoothly. Most of our equipment is really compatible with each other. The one thing that we are doing is just some changes to the programming of our radios. We do already have each other's channels, but we're looking at optimizing that. And then we work with both the City of Vernon and the District of Lake Country are dispatched by Kelowna Fire Department. They have a dispatch center there. So there's a bit of work to do with our dispatch provider to make sure everything's harmonized. I think the key benefit is both the Predator Ridge Fire Hall and the Cars Landing Fire Hall, they're sort of at the extreme ends of their communities. So by developing that mutual aid agreement, now it's almost like you picked up another partner fire hall that it was there, but you didn't have like a legal framework to access it. So I think that's a really good crossover. And I would say, we'll still work with Vernon on the highway like we always have, but I really think the other place is for us, the other northern part of Lake Country is Oyama, the Oyama area, and that's really not that far from downtown Vernon either. So I think benefit to sort of both of those neighborhoods. I think the improvement in response, I wouldn't necessarily say it's about response time, but it might be the amount of resources we can get in time. So it might not necessarily speed up the initial truck getting there, but there'll be other additional trucks available, probably there'll be a lot closer. I think for wildfires or interface fires and structure fire response, it adds a little bit more weight of initial response, and we get more resources on scene early. And then for probably the same thing for structure fires, is we could get additional apparatus on scene early. And it's, it's a lot of work. You need a lot of hands working, and just the ability to have that additional help a little bit sooner, I think could be a big benefit to both departments. Are we going to do any additional training? So we all train to the same minimum standards in British Columbia. We're one of the only provinces in Canada that has a minimum standard for firefighters. So that's our foundation that we'll be working off of. And I think initially our training would concentrate on communications and making sure we're comfortable accessing the extra radio channels and things like that we need to make the agreement work. But if a request goes out for mutual aid, it's no different than if there was a call inside the District of Lake Country. Is Kelowna Fire Dispatch would dispatch us to the incident. They would tell us what channels to work on, and it's all pre-built in the system. And that's some of the background work we have to do as we sort of operationalize the agreement. How does it fit into our broader emergency management strategy? Is it provides us access to additional firefighting apparatus on the northern border of the District of Lake Country, which I think could help out in a wildland urban interface fire or a structure fire. And those would be kind of the two key areas under the emergency management plan. Country's always participated in the regional district of North Okanagan. They have a fire chiefs association up there. So we've show up at those meetings and we do networking and things like that. We have our own mutual aid agreement here within the regional district of Central Okanagan, and Lake Country's been a long time participant in that. But if any other opportunities come up, I think we'd be happy to work with our neighbors. We're trying our very best to work with our neighbors so that in a time of need, we can share resources with each other. And fires on borders can be, they can be a little bit tricky. And I think we just saw that just recently here in the Central Okanagan with the fire between, well, it was in Peachland, but close to the West Kelowna border. And it's really important to be able to work with your neighbors to protect both communities at the same time. So how can residents stay informed about fire safety? So I think there's probably three places I'd ask people to look. For fire safety in the District of Lake Country, I'd ask them to go to the District of Lake Country website, and they can find us under the fire department section. For the Regional District of Central Okanagan, we have a website, courtemergency.ca, and that's where all the official communications get posted. If there is an event for evacuation alerts or orders, they're always posted on there. And that's typically when we have something larger going on. And then the other one for residents in the District of Lake Country is I'd ask them to look at the FireSmart BC website for tips on how they can prepare their homes to be more resilient against a wildfire. Someone who's in a similar boat to us is the District of Peachland, because they're on the south end of the regional district. So they've had an agreement, a mutual aid agreement with the District of Summerland for a number of years now. I don't know how long, but that was part of the thought when we had the fire in 23 and then the fires in 24 was we should look at what Peachland is doing with Summerland, because they do have a little extra help just over the border. And even though it's between two regional districts, you can still make it work. My message to the community is that we're really happy that this agreement's in place now. We hope that we never have to use it. We'll probably use it to train and things like that, but in the event we do need to, there's some help there initially that maybe we didn't have the proper legal framework to utilize in the past. So I think it's a good benefit for the District of Lake Country, and I hope the City of Vernon feels the same way.